What's up, everybody? It's your friend Isaac. Welcome back to Big Bike BMX. I've got my ride or die homeboy, 80s BMX Craig over here. What's up, Craig?
Hey, what's going on, brother? Nothing much, man. Excited to kick this one off, man.
This is a cool one, dude. I'm really excited because we've heard parts of stories like this. Now we're gonna actually hear what it's like on a different side. So, Craig, go ahead and introduce our guest. Let's get right to it.
Yeah, man. Hey, it's a pretty interesting story, Isaac, and thank you for that. And I'll get to the guest here in a second, man. We have done, and if you guys out there in the Big Bike BMX podcast land, YouTube land, have watched us over the years, you know that Isaac and I just have this like general interest, fascination, whatever you want to call it, with the collab bike, right? It seems to be a staple in bike life. It's if you guys are looking at SE, GT, Throne, whoever the big players are in the big bike game, there is collab bikes. It's when a bike brand collaborates with another type of label or brand with whatever business it is. For instance, excuse me, Isaac. And I mean, let's name some of the biggest collabs out there off the top of your head. What do you got?
I
Suicidal
mean,
tendencies.
we'll
You've
go the
got
recent ones. Santa Cruz, like the Santa Cruz Big Ripper. I would say the Mr. Cartoon Throne, the Mando GT or the Crew Jones GT. It's when you see two brands come together, or you see something that's, State Bicycles here does it too. They did like Wu Tang, and I think they also did the Taco Bell grips. So you just see like brands that come together, and you're like, okay, cool. This is like two things that I'm a hobby that I'm into, right? Like I'm a Star Wars geek, so you would think I'd love the Mando bike, right? And
right.
that's what those bike companies are looking for. They're looking for that new consumer that is well twofold, right? So suicidal tendencies, for example, is going to get a bunch of younger kids looking them up to see like why are they getting a bike from SE, and then SE is also going to get some love back from the suicidal fans and go, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I used to like riding bikes. So it's kind of a tit for tat. You scratch mine. But really, for us, the people that really win are going to be the fans of either one of these brands, or if you like both of them, then it's a huge score, right? They do it with, merchandising like Mickey Mouse. Like I just got an email from Vans about like a collab where you can get some Mickey Vans, with like your
Yeah.
favorite Disney character, stuff like that. That's the way these collab things go down.
100%. And so going forward, that's what's really cool about tonight, you guys, is that, like I said earlier, we've gone from the bike brand side of things and talked about collabs, and we've had guests on that talked about their collabs with whatever bike brand that they associated with. But tonight's pretty special because it is the first time that we've had the flip side of the coin, where we had the brand partnering with the bike brand representative here. So we have, Isaac, a really special guest, and all you guys out there, I want you to welcome our special guest tonight. His name is Chris Bullock. Chris Bullock is the Chief Operating Officer for CREME 321. If I got that right, Chris, let me know. But he's here tonight to talk about an SE Bikes collab with CREME, one of their latest bikes that just came out. And we want to hear all about how that happened. But first, without further ado, Chris, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for joining us here at Big Bike.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I've listened to you guys for years, man. So it's really dope to be on here and be able to really, dive into some stuff and talk to you guys.
Yeah, dude. I'll be honest, man. I'm stoked. I think we've been talking I feel like we've had little interactions back and forth for a while, dude. And like, I had no idea this was coming. You're like, bro, like a priest. You didn't tell. Like you would think like, hey, we've talked before. Like you would leak this to me. Like, hey, man, I got this thing happening. But no, dude, we just talk about pedals, stuff like that. Like,
Yeah, and I
talk
mean,
about rare
from my
bikes.
from my standpoint, I was just like, it was just a lot at stake. I mean, it was the first time that SC had really done a collab with a sort of boutique sort of store that's in combination with an entertainer. So it was a little bit different, and I didn't want to mess it up. So I was at ride outs, you know what I mean? And guys didn't know, like I went to a ride out and Todd didn't even recognize me. I shook his hand. He, everybody comes up to him a million times. So he was like, oh, okay, cool, man. I'm like, yeah, I didn't even say, like, I'm doing the collab with you, bro. Like I just kind of, I let it go, got on my bike and, and rode off. So yeah, I really kept it close to the vest just because, I mean, I didn't want to jeopardize anything and it wasn't worth giving a little bit of information out and jeopardize the whole project. So yeah, I kind of stuck to my guns until it was time to really put the information out there to the world.
Well, I'll tell you what, dude. If we ever do a collab, you're my middleman right now because you feel like, dude, I
Stone
would trust.
cold.
Yeah, I would trust your stone cold poker face. Like, what bike? What are you talking about? I love that, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, some stuff you talk about, some stuff you don't. When you work
Yeah,
around entertainers, you kind of learn that, you know what I mean? You just
right.
kind of, you don't say stuff unless you feel confident that it's not going to come back on you.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. So let's quickly. I just want to establish, like, you and I have talked. You have a collection of like rare bikes. Um, give me a quick like overview of the bikes that you and I have talked about.
Um, the vast majority of mine have been Brooklyn Machine Works. I know, I live here in Virginia. I was kind of part of the late 90s, early 2000s Virginia scene where you had Pharrell around here, who I know. You had, the guys from n.e.r.d. You had, the Clips. You had Timberland. You had Missy. I mean, to come from an area, the 757, to be this small, to have that much impact going out to the world in the music industry, we had a whole lot of impact on the world, just coming from this small little corner of Virginia. So, like for me, I just, because Pharrell's partnered with Brooklyn Machine Works, it naturally I was curious about the bike brand. And then when I started to, learn about them, years and years ago, it was kind of a, small shop, more of a like a niche market where you just had custom built bikes, frames, you know what I mean? And so over the years, that's not really, the most profitable model just because it's custom made stuff. It's cool for one guy, but it's not a production type of deal. At least I don't look at it that way. And so as time has went on, the parts have gotten harder and harder to find. A lot of stuff, the Asian market, they love Brooklyn Machine Works, and they literally ate up the vast majority of parts, frames, you name it. It got bought up. So finding like the pedals or finding any of the stuff is really difficult. And I think that's what appealed to me. You know what I mean? I come from a sneaker background where, hard to get sneakers was a big deal. You know what I mean? We loved, rare stuff. And so it kind of had that element. And so I started, building bikes and just looking for parts. And I had another local guy here who was in the Brooklyn Machine Works. And so we kind of started vibing and talking. And then I just started, building some of my own stuff, with a lot of help. I've had help from bike shops, man. I'm not one of these guys that's sitting there welding bikes together. You know what I mean? But, at the end of the day, I have ideas and guys help me put it together,
Yeah,
and I want to shout them out real quick because we're talking about some of these projects, but Eric from Free Will and Bike Shop in Virginia Beach, Powers Bike Shop, Chad up in Richmond, and downtown BMX down in North Carolina. Those three shops during COVID and even after COVID have been instrumental in helping me build some of these bikes, because a lot of them are, Brooklyn bikes are basically just, welded frames, and then the parts sometimes they're not necessarily a perfect fit. So there's a lot of tinkering that went on, and these guys helped me out a lot. So yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I've got a Brooklyn collection that's pretty nuts, you know what I mean? And I've got a lot of money invested in it, but
yeah.
I'm proud of them because they're each individual, and they're unique.
That's awesome, dude. Like, and Craig, I'm gonna let you go, dude. I keep talking, but we
You're
will
good,
always
brother.
encourage you to shout out bike shops. And if you're listening on YouTube or you're listening, if you're on YouTube, comment your favorite bike shop below, because that they are the bread and butter of what we do in our industry and our scene. So always take the opportunity to shout out your local bike shop. And if you are listening to this on the podcast, tweet, go say something on Facebook about your favorite bike shop. Give them a free promo. Go ahead, Craig. Sorry, man.
No, yeah, man. I just want to continue on with what Chris was saying, because that scene in Virginia and the East Coast, man, it sounds like, you had a connection not only to bikes, but you had a connection into the world of hip hop and music and being around artists and stuff like that. Was there like a connection? You mentioned like a few names, and it's not about a name drop. What I want to know is about like, is there a connection between BMX and hip hop on the East Coast that's bigger than what we see? Because I think this is going to lead into a direction later. Like, how did you get involved with that scene with BMX? Was it the relationships first with the artists, or did you were you just all in the same scene together?
We were all in the same scene. And then, I naturally was known as one of the sneaker guys because I spent some time in Europe, living overseas. So I was, and I traveled a lot with my job. I mean, the job that I had back then, and I was a contractor for the government. So I traveled a lot. So if guys wanted stuff, we didn't have that many accounts back then. So, I was one of the guys that could find rare stuff. And I sort of took that same knowledge of sneakers and fashion and clothing into bikes, to where if I needed to find parts, I used some of those same skills to be able to, scour the web or network through people, or, the same sort of methods that I would use to find hard to get stuff back in the day. I still use it today to find the stuff that I need or want or can't find or help somebody else find. As far as the relationships, we were all part of the same scene. We all kind of came from the same generation. We're all in our 40s, or 50s now, and we were all kind of in that same VA scene back in the day when the music was just crazy. The Neptunes was, they were pretty much ruling radio. The Clips came on the scene, and we were all you ran across because it's such a small area. I mean, you think about an area that has 500,000 people, but it's all condensed into one little corner because we're in the corner of Virginia on the coast. So yeah, if you went to the mall, you're going to see somebody. If you went to the club, you're going to see the same people. You know what I mean? You ran across the same names, and just developed relationships with a lot of different guys, and those relationships, have continued through the years.
Yeah, that's interesting that you made that connection between sneakers and bikes, because I'm thinking about it now. I'll just be honest. I'm not a sneakerhead, only because I just feel like I'm lost. I love sneakers, bro. Um, but I don't know enough personally to be a collector. However, I do appreciate, and I do know people who are sneakerheads. Um, and I see the connection between finding rare, rare sneakers or hard to find sneakers or limited drops, colorways, and things like that in BMX. Because of what I do know is, not being a super builder or anything, but I know what it's like to try to find BMX parts that are hard to find, or finding ones that are limited runs, searching
Bro, just trying to find
the
29-inch
US.
supercrosses. Remember when we were trying to find the
Right.
ones that, yeah, there's 33 of them that are made, and now I have to go try and hunt down, like, dude, who's gonna have one, who's gonna get rid of it? Like, yeah, dude, it's a nightmare trying to track some of that stuff down. I get it, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Um,
totally is.
do you remember
And
do
yeah,
you remember the first
if you
time?
look at the early, if you look at the early n.e.r.d videos, you'll see the guys were on bikes. You know what I mean? Like, Chad from the Neptunes was a big bike rider back in the day. Pharrell rides bikes, still collects bikes. Still is involved with the BMX scene. We have a boardwalk down here. It's not Huntington Beach, but it's our boardwalk, and any day of the week you go down there, you'll find somebody on bikes. So yeah, I mean, we sort of have that sort of scene, maybe to a minor degree, but it still exists here in Virginia.
I remember this is how long ago. This is gonna date me so bad, dude. But I remember I heard lap dance, and that hook's gonna definition of a hook on a song. That song is just so memorable. And I remember somebody's like, bro, go look it up on YouTube. And I was like, all right. So, Bay Area hip hop had a very different look than what you had from, like, I didn't even know it was n.e.r.d. I would always just say n.e.r.d, right? But you would see that look of like polo shirts and just looking like dappers, is just looking dapper, right? You're like, that's not what I'm used to seeing in my local Bay Area hip hop at all. And this song is not what I'm used to hearing at all. So then I'm watching this YouTube video, dude, and then someone starts surfing, and I was like, "Oh, that's real, bro. That's not like," because you could tell this is like a it wasn't a $1 million video shoot, you know what I mean? So I'm watching this thing, I'm like, dude is doing a surfer down the road, and that's the same dude that was rapping. I gotta know more. Like, what? This is instant fan, right? Like, I could hate every song you had from that point on, but I'm like, the Brotherhood of Bikes. I'm like, if you know how to surf, you spend a lot of time on bikes, and we're gonna have the same look. Our shins are gonna look the same, right? So like instant bond, right? I was into it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's been a monumental, ascension to where those guys are at now, you know what I mean? Even, even Push and Pharrell and all of those guys, what they've achieved is just mind blowing. And to just be able to, bear witness to it and be around and to have known the guys early on and just to see where you know, they've climbed to, it's been inspiring, man, because genuinely, like these guys. They're cool guys, and they've been helpful to me over the years and really put me in a lot of places that, a kid from a small town in North Carolina probably would have never been given access to, you know what I mean? So, I'm not gonna downplay who I am, but at the same time, like I've been offered a lot of opportunities that, the average person might not have gotten a chance to do, just based off the fact that I was just happened to be lucky to be in the right place at the right time.
Dude, so tell me how the bike, how did you, so I want to get to this collaboration and hear about how you worked that magic, because I'm blown away,
So
dude.
like,
Like, it's so cool, such a cool story.
yeah. Again, it sort of was connected to sneakers in a way because my buddy DJ Mars, who's a DJ down in Atlanta. He's been a DJ for a whole host of R&B acts. I think he was on the Steve Harvey morning show there for a bit, but he's big in the city of Atlanta and really all up and down the East Coast. Well, he also is part of a bike group there in Atlanta that goes on rides around the city. And not to go too much into detail about his stuff, but he was instrumental in getting the Atlanta Ripper done, and so he was part of that, and he was working with Todd, and they came up with that, that whole design. I think it was sort of using the old Atlanta Falcons, or maybe Atlanta Braves. I think it was Atlanta Braves jerseys, with the red and the blue and the white. And so he was instrumental in getting that done, and he was part of it, and he actually sent me one when it was complete. And so I started talking to him, and we kind of just started, like I was like, yo, man, I got some ideas. I've been building bikes for a while now, you know what I mean? Like, for the last 15 years. So, I told him, I was like, hey, who I work for. So, I mean, if there's ever an opportunity for me to try to work something out. And he was like, well, let me reach out to Todd and, just, sort of feel him out and see what he has to say. And so he was like, yeah, he said, it sounds cool. But, Todd gets hit up by a million different people. So I was just like, well, I'm going to hit him from the angle that I know what the hell I'm talking about, because, you know what I mean? I've been building bikes. I'm not some dude that's just coming up like, hey, I want to a bike collab, and this is who I represent, and you guys do what you want to do, and we'll approve. It wasn't anything like that. I remember telling Todd and Vinny from SC early on, I was like, yo, I want to design the baddest motherfucking SE that's ever been. You know what I mean? And I came at it from that degree. Now, I'm not saying that it's that. I'm not, you know what I mean, like proclaiming it's that dope. I just, in my mind, I was thinking I'm going to bring everything that I know from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s and just try to make the dopest bike that I can possibly make. Um, and that's where it sort of started from. And then as Todd and I started talking, I think he knew that, that I was at least passionate about what I was talking about, and that I would be as involved as he would allow me to be. And so I think that's kind of where we sort of bridged the relationship early on. And then we just kind of, would pick up a little bit here and there, a little bit here and there. And then it started to formulate. And once it started to formulate, then it kind of just took legs of its own.
Let's
Well,
let's do this, Chris, because what I definitely want to make this not a stopping point, but I want to give the people a little bit of background, like before we get into what the collab is and who the collab is with. Tell us a little bit about how your relationship or what brand are we talking about that you are partnering with to make this collab? How are you connected? Because the only thing, like personally, like when I saw the collab being hinted out by Essie and Todd, it was just like a king with a sword, right? Like a graphic. Later on came the CREME part, and I still didn't. I because I'm out of tune. I might be out of touch with what's modern. I didn't know what it was. So can you give us a little like insight into what this collab brand is and how you're involved with it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the it's a sneaker and clothing store. It's high fashion, and we have three different locations, two here in Virginia and one in Philadelphia. Having the location in Philadelphia really put us right in the center of the big bike scene there in Philly. So we developed relationships with some of the Philly riders there in town. And for us, we've been in business, for over a decade, nearly 15 years. Um, there's, Push is one of the owners, and then there's two other people in the ownership group. But yeah, I mean, Push being one of the owners makes this a little bit different in terms of what kind of store we are, what kind of business we are. Definitely the connections that we have to both fashion, music, everything. And so this was the first sort of collab that was sort of, but yet a shop, and a bike company that sort of was kind of like we're one and the same, but to explain it to everybody, we wanted to sort of show who we were, as because everybody knows who Push is, but you know what I mean? Like for us, we're also an extension because we do collabs. We've had collabs with Big and Air Boys Club and a host of other companies in the past. So it's not like this was our first collab ever. It was just the first collab of this sort of, route. You know what I mean? We've never done a bike, and I don't know that many. I think maybe Union and out in California maybe did a GT collab a few years ago, which was dope, but this is the first time that I've seen where SC's sort of partnered with with a shop, a high-end shop like ours.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
I've never heard of
definitely
it.
like a very unique situation. And like, when did basically like when did this all start? Like when from that first call, when was that first call? Was it before the bike came out? Are we talking years or just relatively a short amount of time?
Yeah, it's probably about 2.5 years, man. Yeah, about 2.5 years, right on the tail end of COVID, is when, the conversation started. And then, like I said, it was probably a good 2.5 years, which, you know, to their credit, they basically told me it's gonna take a minute, you know what I mean? Because these collabs like this don't happen overnight. As much as people might think that, it's a turnover in a couple of weeks. It's
Right?
it's it's a process, man. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And one thing I do want to say, man, Taj Lines is the realest dude I think I've ever met, in the industry. Like, whenever I thought that the project might be dead, you know what I mean? Like, he found a way to make it happen. You know what I mean? Like he's a real guy, man. He catches a lot of flack from a lot of people, and you know what I mean. He talks a lot of shit, but at the end of the day, bro, that dude is as real as it comes, man. Like he really stuck by the project and really put his neck out on the line for us. And I can't say enough about that guy, man. He's the real deal, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think knowing him for a little bit of time, what you see on social media is wild. That's the wild man. Todd
Right.
Lyons is not the wild man. He just plays that on he plays that on social media. You know what I mean? And you'll see, like you can tell the difference when he's here's the thing, he's always goofing off. You know what I mean? Because this is probably like if he's replying on social media, he's probably just sitting down, going poop, taking a break from work, and like just trolling you. You know what I mean? Like that we all did that as kids, and so he just continues to do that. But yeah, he's absolutely he's a stand-up dude like that. You know what I mean? Like that's the one thing I definitely could say about him. Um, I'm I just like I've never heard. I was about to say it before. I've never heard of like a brand like a store like that getting a collab, dude. So first of all, congrats, man. I gotta say it again, dude. Like That is such a cool thing to have happen and be a part of. So you're talking with Todd. I can't imagine what that was like doing this during the pandemic too. Like all the turnaround times during that was, I remember it was like 2 years for a seat, bro. Like I remember somebody showing me a seat, like if you want this color seat, it is this amount of weeks, dude. And I'm just doing the math, and I'm like, bro, that's 2.5 years for like a
Right.
red seat. You know what I mean? So the patience y'all would have had to go through that. And what was it like designing the bike? That's what I am fascinated by. Like the knowing the level of detail that you're going to have from you and your crew, and knowing the level of detail that Todd puts into some stuff when he's really hyped about it like that. I can't imagine what this would have been the most cool, fascinating, and just intriguing design process of like sheets that go back and forth, you know.
Yeah, I think if you look at the pad set was a combination of all four kings. The king plays into, Push uses, the king sort of symbolism in a lot of his promos, a lot of the merch, just, in the name that he uses. I know his Adidas stuff, has used some of that stuff in the past. And so, taking that, and then the fact that when the shop first started, it was really small, you know what I mean? Like the shop started in a really, really small, um, store. And back then there wasn't a ton of accounts. Back then I wasn't even working there, I was just one of the friends. And so, back then there'd be days where we would just kind of be sitting, just bullshitting, messing around, and we'd be playing cards. You know what I mean? We'd be playing spades, or we'd be playing, any of the card games, that guys from my generation grew up playing, and even older or younger, like we were just passing time. And so I sort of took that, that whole card theme, and used that, as well as the king sort of, symbolism, and use that. And that pad set initially, I was hoping to try to do the frame set with that same design that's on the pads. And that's when you get into where, production limitations, where, they're not going to design a wrap just for one single release because it's expensive. And so we sort of had to shift gears in a lot of ways, and at a lot of different times, to sort of come up with the theme. The crack pattern, was something that Todd came and was like, they have these crack patterns, and they look pretty dope. And then we were thinking about the colors, and we were thinking about, well, and for me, from my standpoint, I wanted to make this bike look as evil as I could make it look. I wanted it to be dark. I wanted it to be, not, not not a negative, but just when you looked at it, you're like, man, that bike looks killer, man. Like it looks exactly how I felt like Push approaches music. You know what I mean? He's no nonsense. He's straight to the point. Like you're not going to find rainbows and bubblegum, in a Clips or a Pusha T, album. So I kind of came at it from that standpoint, and kind of tried to make it, look as sort of dark as I could make it, but yet make it as clean of a design as I could possibly make it. And so, we started talking, and then the crack pattern came up, and we started sort of exploring that, and that was a possibility. And then I think when the weird thing is, I had I had like a special sort of sound when I'd get a message from SE or from Todd, because generally they were like at 2 in the morning, you know what I mean, on East Coast time. Because if he got something from, from somewhere overseas that somebody had sent him, he would forward it. And normally it was like 2 or 3 in the morning. So if I heard that sound in the middle of the night, it was like jump up like it was Christmas time, you know what I mean? So because you knew you were gonna either have some information or possibly a picture. And I think the first shot I saw of the frame, I was just like, yo, this bike is gonna be sick, man. And so that's kind of where it started. And
I was going to ask you about that, and forgive me for interrupting, because I think this is really important on to hear what you're saying from the side of the label, uh, that you're collabing with SE, which you guys are. Like, did you have an idea of the frame size or what it's, I mean, obviously the layout, the design, the labeling, all that you guys are working on that. Like, who selected or who suggested the frame size, the fat tire bike, the 26-inch frame? I mean, were you guys like bouncing stuff back and forth, or how did that all come about?
Um, I mean, I'll tell you as straight up as I can tell you, man. Like, I wanted to do a 27.5 PK Ripper. I know that was, you know, when Isaac was on SC, that was one of his favorites. If not his favorite, it's my favorite bike in the lineup. But you know, I could design it and make a PK 27.5, which I think would be dope. But I think it would be dope for guys that are 30 and above, you know what I mean, who,
Yep.
you know, that they like that bike because that bike reminds them of the bike they had in 87, you
Yeah.
know, or anytime, you know, back during, and it would be cool. It'd be cool as hell for me, and it would be, you know, my favorite frame that SE makes. But the part that appeals the most to me is I wanted to see kids ride the bike. And so I found that, did I want a 45-year-old dude to hang it up on his wall and stand there and look at it? Or did I want to see, you know, a one-way little man riding it, you know what I mean, down the street doing videos and you know what I mean, looks like he's just having a blast. So for
Right.
me, you know, the best frame, in my opinion, and the one that would appeal to kids the most would be the Fat Ripper. It's one of the easiest to do wheelies on. It's, you know, it's very popular in inner cities. And so I wanted to see the most kids on the bike because I wanted to, you know, the bike to have legs and for people to remember it 15, 20, 30 years from now when I'm, you know, when I'm either old and, you know, decrepit or, you know, I'm gone, you know, like I really wanted kids for it to resonate with them more so than to make a bike for guys my age. You know what I mean? I've been down that. I had saw the bikes of the, you know, the late 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, you know, the new kids that are 10 years old, they don't know anything about that stuff. So I wanted to present something that kids would be drawn to versus guys my age, you know, because I get more enjoyment out of it seeing the kids ride it than I do guys my age. You know what I mean? Even though I love that bike, I wanted to see other kids riding it more so than guys my age riding it.
Yeah, man. It's like, you know, you wanted that legacy to be something that could be enjoyed from a generation coming up, and you're going to see it out on the streets. And you know, you mentioned that, and as soon as that bike drops, dude, and the SE team that was getting those bikes or people that were getting those, um, they hit the streets with it right away. It wasn't like, you know, put it in the house and you know, whatever, or, you know, you mentioned hanging on the wall. They were already making like viral videos with the bike, doing wheelies, doing the tricks and all the combos and stuff. So that's exactly what happened. I mean, everything that you just said is exactly what I saw as soon as the videos started hitting the social media outlets. So yeah, man, congratulations, because you totally accomplished what you had an idea of doing right away. So it worked.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man.
I couldn't agree more, because here's the thing, dude. Like, I as far as like the 27.5s, you have the PK and then you have the beast mode, right? So by dropping this as a fat tire bike, I don't know that I off the top of my head, dude, I can't think of another collab or special bike that was done for a fat bike. So like that to me is, it makes it even that much cooler to me. And the fact you went like, yeah, go on a fat tire bike so you could pass that along, like you said, Craig, like a legacy thing. The older I get, the more that like every year that feeling of like what are you leaving behind absolutely just continues to grow. So seeing that, like, from you going like, hey man, I want this to be a ridden bike, I don't want it to be a trophy bike, I want this, like, by imparting that memory and implanting like that bike, that's going to be some kids like, that was my main bike. You know what I mean? For me as a kid, I can tell you, like, man, I had a couple of main bikes that I absolutely will remember. And to, like, for you to be able to go like, hey man, yeah, I made this happen for these kids, and that's going to be their foundation bike that they learned wheelies on, or that they went on that ride out and saw Little Man, or they saw Hood Rich, or they saw Joe No Blocks gave him a T-shirt or something.
Yeah.
Gave him a shirt off his own back, probably.
Well, what's crazy, Isaac, is like, the intent was to make sure this is a rideable, appealing bike to that generation, right? Like kids who are going to ride it and stuff. But as Chris said earlier, man, this thing looks nothing like anything that's ever come out. And it's
Nothing.
got the darkest, like that crackle theme. Never have seen that on a theme bike, right? It's got the playing card king, and everything is just hitting on a different cylinder, fat tired bike, limited edition, right? They're only making 300 of these. So it almost like does, like, if a guy who really collects these bikes goes, hey man, I got one of those, it could be one of those. And that's the thing. It fills the cup of guys like us if we want to collect them, but it also makes it super dope for a kid to take outside and just get to work.
Yeah. Dude, Chris, how many go ahead.
I kind of took, I'm not going to say lessons learned, but I definitely drew inspiration from previous collabs when it came to like the embossed or debossed seats that SE's done in the past. Because I did it was important for me to try to get the King logo sort of, on the seat, but I wanted it to be, not just, a graphic that was, printed on there. I actually wanted something that was going to stay, and if kids wrote it and it wrote it and wrote it and wrote it and wrote it, it would still be there and it wouldn't just wear off. So I did that. I wanted I wanted uh, the rims to be painted and not, not sort of have like the silvery look that you see on a lot of rims nowadays that have been treated, so that there'll be a certain color. I actually wanted it to be painted, and I took that from, if you look at the Mike Buff, Fat Ripper, it's sort of a matte black, painted rim, and I thought that really set that bike off. So I kind of wanted to do something similar with the red on the rims, the red on some of the, like the seat clamp. And I wanted it to not vary too much. I wanted the red that was on the rims to pop off of the red that's on the 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 undercoat that shines through those cracks. The cracks, I think, the way it was explained to me is that it's a heat process, and so it's sort of like I don't know if it's a two-part paint, but when they hit it with the heat, that's when the crack pattern starts, and that's what makes each bike unique. So, I've been real interested. I've been, following it in social media to see all of the different variations of how the frames look. Some of them are a little more tame, and then some of them are crazy as hell. You know what I mean? So, just seeing that variation and knowing that it's almost like, back in the day when you would get something unique, out of a, box of cards or comic book or
Yeah.
pair of shoes or anything that was, everything was a one of one. That's always been one, especially in the sneaker world. That was always really, like, made a huge wave. So for me, when Todd said, yeah, these are all going to be, unique into themselves, I was like, well, man, that's killer. I don't think I've seen that on very many bikes at all.
Mm-mm.
I think maybe that wood bike that they did years ago, I believe that one was hand painted. I think that might have been one of the bikes that SE did, that each one was sort of unique, but being unique like this Fat Ripper, I think every one is vastly different in terms of, how the crack pattern looks on each bike.
Dude, how many revisions did you have to go through? How many back and forths on the design
Shit.
did you guys go through?
I don't know the total number, but I think it was somewhere around 15 or 16
Oh, okay.
variations. Don't quote me on that. It could have been less, it could have been more. I know it was a lot. You know what I mean? I can't compare because I haven't been part of the other previous collaborations, but I know there was a lot of back and forth. But it was never like a bad thing. Like, the crack pattern, it wasn't part of the initial design, because I pretty much had the bike, idea sort of in my head, and then I had a lot of it on paper, early on, and then it's sort of kind of like this conversation. It was just organic, you know what I mean? You start with the theme, and then it just kind of builds from there. And I think the further it went along, the more into it I was, and the more into it that, you know, Todd and the guys at SE were, because they were seeing like, yo, this shit, you know, it's starting to really come together, you know, to be something dope. And so to get where it got, even the color, like the color initially I thought was going to be just a black and red, and then when it sort of took on sort of like that, I'm not going to call it blood, but you know, it's kind of like scorched earth, you know what I mean, where you kind of have that deep dark, almost like a maroon, and then you know, with the crack pattern having almost like a, it's not really an infrared, but it looks damn close to it because it pops off of that other color. And so, you know, even that was organic and wasn't planned, and it sort of happened. And when it happened, you know, I was like, you know, I mean, maybe that's just the way it was supposed to be. So when it came out, you know what I mean, it was like these things are coming together, and they're coming together in a way that nobody's forcing it. It's just happening, and we're kind of, you know, sitting back and really like appreciating the fact that we're doing something that I feel like the world's going to like.
Dude,
I think
yeah, I
that's
mean,
dope because uh, I'm going to tell you exactly where I'm coming from, Chris. I'm not sure this is true, but this is just my own thoughts, right? I would wonder if previous collab, whether it be with SE Throne or whoever, if representatives from the brand would have that much like, I wouldn't want to say passion, but that the you know, the in-depth knowledge of BMX, first of all, like you do, and then two, really wanting to make it something that, you know, it represents not only the brand, but it's cool in the street. It's cool for kids. Um, it almost feels like there would be instances where people are like, I don't know, just make it cool, just make it pop, make it this, make it that, you know, and they're willing to sign off on whatever. It just seems like, you know, with this collab, because we're talking to you, like you going, oh man, this worked out perfect, you know, I had this idea but this came out, and you coming with that background, dude. I mean, at the end of the day, when you signed it off, right, was everything just like, man, this was way better than I expected? Because if it was coming from someone who has the BMX background like you, that's remarkable that a process can start with one idea and then end up with all these nuances and surprises that you weren't even aware were going to happen.
Yeah, no, that was the fun part of it, man. Like, you know, if you look, I think the sample that we got, the saturation of the cracks were not as nearly pronounced as the actual production bikes. So even from the sample to what actually was delivered, was a pretty, you know, a pretty big difference. And it was a good difference because I remember talking to Todd and I was like, hey, is there any way that we can have them sort of hit this and make this pop a little more with these cracks? And the next up, you know, I opened up the first box and I was like, "Holy shit!" And I looked at the next one and I was like, "Yo, this is crazy, man. This bike is nuts in comparison to," because the sample was a little bit more, like I said, subdued, and it still was dope. Don't get me wrong, but it didn't have like some of the frames that came out, you know, super crazy. I never anticipated that it was going to be that great. That's what I wanted and hoped for. So yeah, it was a huge surprise for that to come together that way, and for, you know, to it be exactly what I was hoping for prior to, you know, the bikes arriving. So to see that, you know, the dealers get them and post their videos, to see, you know, guys and kids, you know, posting their videos, yeah, I mean, it's been super dope, man, because like I said, you know, I wasn't a novice when it came to BMX, man. Like, you know, I've been
Right.
collecting bikes. I remember, and not to go too far back in, you know, back into history, but I wanted the kids to feel like I felt in 86 and 87 when I looked at the Dyno Detour in a magazine. We didn't even have dealers in North Carolina where I grew up, in a small town. So it was like a pipe dream. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
looking at this magazine back in the day, I remember seeing it. It was like a jungle scene, and it was like new Dino Detour, had the pretzel bars, you know what I mean? Had the white mags. And I was just like, yo, this is the dopest bike I've ever seen, man. You know what I mean? All my
Yeah.
buddies was riding GT Performers and all of that. And when they came out with that dyno, it was a different flavor. It had, you know, a different handlebars. It was just a little bit different. And I was just like, okay, well, I want to have that impression on a kid. I don't need nobody to say, yo, thanks, Chris. You know what I mean? Like just a kid, just knowing that there's a kid out there in Des Moines, Iowa, who just got that bike and it's his first real big, like limited, run bike. And he's never going to forget that. If I can give a kid that memory, then everything that I've done for the last 2.5 years, and I'm not trying to be poetic at all, bro. I'm not trying to
No, it
be
makes
like,
sense. I think you're talking to Isaac, you, me, Isaac, everyone else out there who's had that experience as a kid, flipping through magazines, picking out their bike. If they were lucky enough, they went to a bike shop, they could point up on the wall or on the rack and say, that one, mom. I mean, but if not, no kid in my brain process forgets his first bike or the bike that he wanted as a kid. As he's older, now that we're older, we got the bikes we want or we still want, we know what that feeling's like. And that totally makes sense. I mean, Isaac, that Chris just laid out our whole childhood.
Pretty much, yeah, dude. I mean, you think I do would be fascinating to do is do a study on like the the kids that were drawn to like that okay, yeah, everyone had a GT, I got a dyno because they had pretzel bars, right? Because the bars are so unique, so different, that frame so different, the fork bend forward with the dropout in the back, so different. And then he grows up to work in a boutique, and be a sneakerhead that likes that like one-off custom. I want to wear something that's different than everybody else. I would
Yeah.
love to do the site, like just do a look forward, like look back and go, okay, how many of the folks that rode like a dyno versus a GT or like a MCS styler with all those things in it, what did they turn out to be and what did they turn out to collect? You know what I mean? When you're young, you're not thinking like, oh, I'm gonna chase sneakers when I'm a kid, right? Or when I'm an adult. You like that was not even a concept. You were just like, oh yeah, like Jordans. I remember when Jordans dropped, and I was like, dude, those are so dope, right? I remember I was like, Mom, please. And she's just like, there's no way in hell you're getting those shoes, man. They will whoop your ass and take them. And so I just laughed about that stuff. But now you grow up, you're drawn to that dyno, that unique frame. You grow up, you have opportunity to make your version of like the most unique thing that you can, given some parameters. And here we go. We got the CREME bike, and we got the, you talk about like, okay, I want it to be just like that you were kind of avoiding evil. I look at it, dude. I'm a Star Wars kid, bro. So all I see is like that Sith Lord Darth Vader, Anakin out of the cracks of like lava, and just like, that's that feeling I get when I look at that paint job, dude. When I saw it, I was like, bro, that is so like Anakin, Darth Vader, grimy, like fighting it out. Like, I don't know, dude. That's the vibe I get from it. So I love
Yeah,
it.
no,
I
I
loved
mean
it.
it's that that similar feeling you can be attributed to a lot of different things. It's just
Yep.
that darker sort of thing. I just wanted people to look at it and be like in the back of their mind, just, I mean, that's killer. You know what I mean? And it
Symbolism.
would
Yeah.
resonate to them, however, whatever they were into, they see that, they're like, yo, that bike is dark and has sort of a sinister sort of theme to it. Not without, no violence or nothing like that, but
No, no, no,
just,
no, no.
you
Yeah.
know,
Are you
it has that look.
are you
I can't wait to see
pushing
those
does
Texas kids make
sorry,
them
Isaac.
glow, dude. I can't wait to see those Texas kids put like the CCLED, like those the red glowy lights all over it,
Ooh,
dude.
yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna look dirty. Go ahead, dude. Sorry.
No, I was just going to ask Chris, like throughout this process, you've mentioned Pusha T. Are you pushing, and not intended to use that, but are you giving revisions? Are you updating him? Is it his final word, or is this like him saying, "Hey, bro, that sounds cool. Yeah, go do a bike. Let me know how it goes." How did that work out?
No
A
pressure.
little bit of both. Yeah, I mean, a little bit of both. I mean, we've got it's, I mean, like I said, it's co-owned. So, an owners group, that's a couple of different people. And so, yeah, I ran by some of the revisions with him. We talked about stuff, you know what I mean? Not to really talk too much about Push's information, but he did give me the green light early on, and I think he had the confidence that I wasn't going to do something that was going to be corny as hell, and not that some people might not think it's corny, but I don't think it's corny, and I don't think the vast majority of people that I saw giving feedback after it dropped looked at it like it was that way. So I think he had the confidence knowing who I am and being that we've known each other for, 20 some odd years, and I told him, I was like, dude, I know what I'm doing, man. You know what I mean? Like, this is not my first rodeo when it comes to bikes. You guys, I know Isaac's seen some of my Brooklyn bikes, and even before this, I did n.e.r.d did last year for the Something in the Water festival that Pharrell has here in Virginia Beach. They did a collab with a clothing brand called Pleasures, and they did an installation, and I actually built, I talked with the guys from Brooklyn, and just talked about doing like maybe a one-off, maybe a limited run, and it ended up just being a one-off for that, event. And I built that bike, and I did it sort of with the n.e.r.d logos, and we kind of did a play on the Brooklyn Machine Works logos with the n.e.r.d and sort of mashed that together, and um, built like a custom one off, and I put that in the actual shop, not our shop, but in the shop down in Virginia Beach that they were doing the collab, out of, and I put the bike in there along with one of the Brooklyns that I built. So yeah, I wasn't coming from, like, hey, I got a bike design. Hey, I'm going to design something I've never done. Let's see how it goes. I mean, I hope he had the confidence that I wasn't going to come up with something that, wasn't going to represent us, in a good way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think it turned out well. Most people, in fact, all of the staff love it. You know what I mean? They thought it was super dope. So, yeah, I'm confident that it's been a success both on SE's side and, on our side. So, yeah, I mean, they had some buy-in, but I think they pretty much gave me the freedom to sort of run with it because it was my project that I sort of, pulled out the ground and sort of got it off the ground. And like I said before, Todd was, the biggest help in the world. And I can't thank that dude enough, man. He's, he really, really helped me out a lot. And, I know a lot of people come at him and he didn't have to do it for us or me. And so like I said, I've been lucky, man. I've been in a lucky position in a lot of different ways in my life. And I've learned to network through people and networking through folks. This is not my first time talking to Isaac. We've talked about stuff even before this project existed. So, once the project did exist, I was like, yo, when this shit's done, I definitely want to talk to this dude. You know what I mean? Because like this is going to be, and I think I even told you like early on in the month, I was like, yo, there's some big stuff coming this month, man.
Bro,
And you're
that's
like,
all I
yeah,
got. Yeah.
cool, cool, cool.
That's all I got, dude, was like, so for the backstory, like we've been going back and forth on Instagram for years. He was just like, I think I commented or I sent you a message or replied to a story on one of the bikes you had posted somewhere on your Instagram or something. I'm like, bro, dude, Brooklyn, dude, that's sick. Yeah. And so I was like, you were just like my high-end bike friend. You know what I mean? That's literally, I was just like, oh yeah, dude, if I want to go and look at some high-end bikes, I know like, dude, we can just chit chat about that, and it was a fun back and forth. But yeah, I had no idea like who you worked for or anything like that. I'm like, this is just my friend that has like super dope rare bikes. You know what I mean? I'm like, because you talk to people all the time on the internet, right? The internet makes the world so much smaller. And so like if people send me DMs, dude, I reply to them, right? I'm just like, hey, what's going on, man? And we were just chit-chatting and he's like, yeah, dude, check this out. And I was like, no way, dude. Because the only reason I knew about Brooklyn Machine Works is when this would have been 2005, 6, 7, something like that. I was looking for like a bike I could ride that was my size. And the dude at the mountain bike shop, he was like, you got to get a single speed mountain bike. And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, bro, you might want to just look at this like Brooklyn Machine Works. And I was like, I've never heard of it. I went home I was like, I'll go look it up. He's like, yeah, dude, Pharrell's like involved. I was like, the nerd guy? And he's like, yeah. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Instantly my brain is just connecting dots. Like, okay, like good street riding bike. The dude from the lap dance video doing surfers. Okay, this makes sense to me, right? I'm like, this makes sense. He'd put some money into that. And I was like, dude, yeah, sick. And so we were just talking about bikes all the time, like just talking about your Brooklyn bikes and hey, check out this build. You know what I mean? I'm like, dude, yeah, sick, bro. That's a sick build. Had no idea like all this was coming. And then you were just like, hey bro, stay tuned. And just like, it was like the promo shot. And I was like, again, don't know you're involved at all, dude. I'm just thinking like you're hyped on like a new bike that's coming out, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. And then like then 2 days later, I was just like, no way, dude. That I was like, I ain't playing poker. Never will I play poker against that dude ever. Cause like the whole time we've been talking since the minute we started, you've been working on this collab. So I think that's hilarious that like I geeked out so hard on your Brooklyn bikes and you were just holding this like gem of like PS, I'm doing this thing. You know what I mean? I thought that was dope, dude. So hats off to you. If I ever do anything that needs to have a secret kept, I'm calling you, bro. I'm just telling you right now, like that's
Well, and I was looking for a lot of feedback from guys too. So I talked to a lot of guys who were, either close in and around the big bike scene or just BMX in general, just, to sort of get their feeling on stuff, just to see, okay, maybe I can gain some knowledge from this guy, or maybe his experience with this, or, just to get some, some different ideas from other people, and what they thought, what they were into. I know, Laird down in North Carolina, he builds custom frames, and occasionally I would hit him up, ask him questions. I talked to Damon Dayton, I don't know how many times. You know what I mean? Just basically just shooting the shit, and talking about bikes that he collects, and he's got his whole stable, and just kind of kept the airwaves open, just to talk to whoever is in the bike world, who knows bikes and knows what they're talking about, just so I could, what I mean, not just get inspired, but just to sort of know what people's ideas were, because the bike world is continuously shifting, year after year after year. You see trends come and go, and things leave, come back. It's the same way in fashion and sneakers, man. It's the same exact thing. So it's like, sort of navigating those changes and just understanding them, and just trying to, like I said, I set out to build the dopest bike I could possibly build, because I was like, well, this may be my only shot. You know what I mean? Who the hell gets to design their own thing? You know what I mean? And pretty much have sort of free reign from my perspective to do what I wanted to do, and then to be able to do it with Todd, who's been doing this for damn near 20 years. You know what I mean? It's like, going to the messiah of, bike collabs. And here I am trying to throw my own spin into it. And then for him and I to sort of be able to come together, along with Vinny's help, because Vinny was instrumental as well, man. Vinny, the graphic designer for SE, he was huge, and, as far as making a lot of this stuff happen. So I think, between the three of us and a couple other people, like, it just, it was, at the end, it felt like magic to me, man.
That's so cool, dude. Well, man, I appreciate you giving us your time. I know it's probably like 1 a.m. now for you right now back east. So thanks for coming on so late. Please thank your family and your friends for giving us your time, and for choosing to spend it with us and share, with fans, like what it's like to be a fan, and now what it's like to kind of peel that curtain back and go, dude, like a fan made bike is it's so much cooler than just like a brand made bike. Like hearing the personal stories of like how stoked you are, and how how the crackle pattern was important to you, dude, makes it just that much cooler. And I will appreciate them when I look at them now, just a little bit more, because of the backstory that you share, dude. So thanks for coming on, giving us your time, sharing that, and giving such a cool gift back to BMX, dude. Like, if I would tell you, like, when you were 13, 14, looking at that dyno, going, hey man, you're gonna do that for a bunch of kids one day, and just walk out the shop, dude. I wonder what the butterfly effect would be. That would just be amazing. But congratulations, dude. Thanks for coming on, sharing your story. Craig, any last words, brother?
Oh man, I just want to first and foremost give a huge shout out to Chris Bullock, for showing up here and giving us your backstory and all the insights from what it takes to be on the other side of a collab, man. It's super interesting. I was really, excited about the passion that you have, the history that you brought into this, and the result that came from it, brother. It was very insightful, and the proof is in the pudding. It's on the street. It's in the videos. The kids are loving it. The adults are loving it. Everybody loves it. It's one of the hardest collabs to come from SC, I think, of all time. And I just want to say thank you for your time and giving us that insight. So, huge shout out to you. Everybody that's out there on YouTube right now, or if you're listening on streaming podcasts, the Big Bike BMX podcast, we love you guys. And we love the support that we've gotten over the years and episodes and all the
It's
seasons
gonna be
we
4
put out.
years, dude. It's gonna be
4 years, man. We're coming up on like 100. If we haven't hit it yet, dude, we're like 100 episodes in almost. You know, we got the crazy best followers and listeners out there. So thank you guys, man. Isaac and I and all the guests really appreciate you. And yeah, man, this has been a dope interview. I was so stoked for this, and it turned out even better than I thought. Because I'll tell you this, Chris, and I said it earlier, hearing the other side of the coin is one thing, but hearing it come from someone who's got that connection to BMX, got that connection into the pulse of what's going on today was super insightful, and it's super exciting. I can't wait to see what your next project is, dude, because if you do this with a collab bike that you've never done before, who knows what else is coming our way from you and the folks on your team. Brother, thank you for being here. And man, I wish you all the best.
Yeah, and I appreciate it, guys. Like it's been, it's been, like I said, it's been a dream come true. I've been listening to, to you guys' podcast for a long time. It kept me updated on a lot of different things. So it was always my go-to podcast. And every time one popped up new, it was made my day. So I appreciate you guys having me on. Hopefully this is not my last hurrah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I hope I got another one coming down, down the pipe. And then, next time you guys come on, and hopefully I'll have another cool ass story to tell you guys, man.
I can't wait, dude. Yeah. Like, good luck topping this. Good luck taking on that extra pressure of doing it again. Bro, I can't wait to see what you do next. Congratulations on the success. Good luck finding what's your dream sneakers. If you could get your dream sneakers, what would it be?
I mean, as cliche as it sounds, man, I don't know, the Jordan 1, that's the one that hit me square in the face back in, '86 when I first saw it. I grew up in North Carolina, so naturally Jordan was a fan, I was a fan as a kid. So yeah, that Jordan 1, having a Jordan 1 collab, that would be the pinnacle of my existence in the sneaker world. But, time will tell.
Dude,
there you go. Hey, you guys, check it out. One last thing for me, check out these sponsors that Isaac has down here on the screen. And if you're listening in the streaming world, man, go. We got a whole list of sponsors that help us and support us for this show. Isaac's going to put their links in the information that you guys can go check out. Please go support them. They are what makes Big Bike BMX, and they make stuff for you guys because they have a passion, just like Chris does for his projects. They got a passion to make sure that we got all the things we need in the BMX big bike world. So yeah, go check them out. Isaac, I'm gonna throw it back to you, brother, and you can close us out.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it, dude. Yeah, we love our fans, we love our sponsors, and just anybody that gets out there, man, regardless of what you do on your bike, whether you design bikes, whether you ride bikes, whether you build complete customs, just go and enjoy your bikes, man. That's the best thing you could do. Enjoy yourselves. You've earned it. You're worth it. Go have some fun. Dude, I can't wait to see what you do next, Chris. And I would love to see what you would do with some Jordans, man. That'd be sick, dude. I know, dude, like, Craig, do you remember like those starter jackets? Those, like, the ones that you had in high school, like those, like,
I had the parkas.
Oh, the park, dude. I had
the parkas. Yeah, the starter parkas.
I had a Seahawk parka, but I couldn't wear it to school because my school wasn't in a Seahawk colored neighborhood, so I couldn't wear that. But dude, I had it, and I took it to college, and bro, this kid, my roommate, threw, like, you could buy legit like big M80s up in Washington, and so his uncle gives him like $100. He goes, "Hey, go down the road to that stand. Tell me you want a grenade." And you want some real loud, explosives. And I was like, bro, you asked the right dude. You know what I mean? I'm like, let's go, dude. I go down there. We start chucking these M80s off the back because he lives on the side of a mountain, which is absolutely idiotic, right? Because I'm throwing dynamite off of a mountain that his house is propped up on. I understand now at 50 the idiocy, like how idiot proof that was, but idiot proof, how idiotic that was. But here we are. I was 18. I'm chucking those things, dude. And he flicks one at me, and it burnt my start. I'm still mad about it, dude. That's why I still have the story, because he like a little spark hit my sleeve, and I was like, bro, you just you just juked my whole like jacket, man. You owe me a jacket. And I was so pissed, dude. I'm still mad now.
Yeah.
So
Hey, check this out, Chris. This will make sense for you. Like I told my son, like he loves sneakers. And he's like, he told me his favorite are the Jordan ones as well. And he's like, did you ever have any of those? I go, yeah, I bought them straight out of Foot Locker or whatever when they came out. He's like, you still got them? I'm like, nah, bro, I wore them out. He's like, you wore them? I'm like, yeah, that's what we did when we were kids. We wore our sneakers, bro. I had no clue these were going to be 10, 20, $30,000 pair of shoes. And he just shakes his head like I'm a total idiot because I wore
dude,
my Jordan ones to school and played out on the playground basketball and shit. He thinks I'm a moron.
How were you supposed to get a date if the girl didn't know that you had some Jordans, bro? Like you had to show the Jordans before like you could get the girl to come by and even like talk to you. So yeah, that was my world, man. I wore my Jordans too. But anyway, dude, we'll let this wrap because we'll just keep shooting shit about nostalgia for another 2 hours, bro. If I don't let you go. So thanks again, Chris. Take care. We love you guys. Make sure you tune in, like, subscribe, hit that notification. If you liked this episode, it's the end of the show. So if you made it this far, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the notification so you know when we post new stuff. And if you don't, that's cool too. We still love the shit out of you. So have some fun. Go ride your bikes. Go check out that CREME bike. And we'll talk to you soon. Take care, everybody.
Oh.